Okay, so you want to buy a bunch of steel boxes and rent them out to strangers. That's it. That's the business. No walls to build, no elevators, no leasing office with a receptionist. Just a flat piece of land, a stack of shipping containers, and a padlock. But here's the strange part. This is quietly one of the highest margin real estate businesses in America right now, and almost nobody outside the industry has heard of it. Self-storage as a whole already has a reputation as the boring cash machine of real estate. But many storage container businesses, sometimes called portable storage or container yards, are the stripped-down, no-frills version of that machine. Less capital, less construction, faster payback. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how a rusty metal box sitting in a gravel lot generates a return that outperforms almost every other asset class you've been told to invest in, why some operators are quietly building million-dollar portfolios of nothing but containers, and why a business this simple still manages to bankrupt people who don't understand the math underneath it. Let's start with what you're actually buying. A standard used 20-foot shipping container costs somewhere between $2,000 and $3,500 depending on condition and location. A 40-foot container runs $3,500 to $6,000. New one-trip containers, meaning they made a single overseas voyage before being sold off, cost roughly double that. Now here's the thing that surprises most people. You don't need a warehouse. You don't need a permitted commercial building. In most jurisdictions, you need a piece of land, usually an acre or two, zoned for light industrial or commercial use, some gravel or asphalt, a security fence, and maybe a camera system. Compare that to traditional self-storage, where a single climate-controlled facility can run you $4 to $7 million to build. A container yard with 50 units might cost you $150,000 to $300,000 total, land included, if you're buying in a rural or semi-rural market. That's the entire pitch in one sentence. You're getting into a real estate rental business for the price of a nice house, instead of the price of an apartment complex. So where does the actual money come from? A single 20-foot container rents for anywhere from $100 to $180 a month, depending on your market, and a 40-foot container can pull $150 to $275 a month. Now do the boring math with me for a second, because this is where people's eyes light up. 50 containers at an average of $150 a month is $7,500 a month, or $90,000 a year, in gross rent. Your costs to run that yard, meaning insurance, property tax, a part-time site manager, or none at all if it's fully automated with a gate code system, minor maintenance, maybe a bit of marketing, typically land somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 a year. That leaves you with $65,000 to $75,000 in net operating income on a property you might have $250,000 total invested in. That's a 26 to 30% cash-on-cash return, before you even factor in that the containers themselves keep functioning as rentable assets for 15, 20, sometimes 30 years, with almost no depreciation in usefulness. A steel box doesn't need a new roof. It doesn't have plumbing that breaks. It's basically a rectangle that sits there and prints money, provided you did your homework before buying it. But look, here's where the guaranteed math stops being guaranteed, because just like the laundromat guy who thinks he's buying a machine and is actually buying a location, the container storage guy who thinks he's buying steel boxes is actually buying land and demand. And that's where the whole business either works beautifully or quietly falls apart. Part 2. And this is the part most first-time buyers skip because it's less fun than pricing out containers. Location is basically the entire business. You can have the cheapest containers in the state, and if you're 25 minutes outside of any residential neighborhood, nobody is driving out there to store their old couch. The sweet spot for a container yard is somewhere with rising rents, tight housing, so people don't have garages or basements, and enough population density within a 5 to 7 mile radius. Industry data from the Self-Storage Association has shown that self-storage demand correlates directly with two things: housing turnover, meaning people moving in and out of homes, and downsizing, meaning apartments getting smaller in dense metro areas while people's stuff stays the same amount. Container storage specifically thrives in that gap between I need somewhere for my extra furniture and I don't want to pay climate-controlled indoor storage prices. Now here's a metaphor that actually explains why some yards fail even in good locations. Think of a container yard like a vending machine that only sells one product, and that product is empty space. If somebody puts a competing vending machine 2 blocks away and sells the same empty space for $10 less, your machine goes quiet, fast. Self-storage, including container storage, is brutally price-sensitive because the product is genuinely undifferentiated. Nobody has brand loyalty to a storage box. They have loyalty to whoever is closest and cheapest at the moment they need it. This is why oversaturated markets, and there are plenty now because container storage has gotten trendy with small investors over the last 5 years, are seeing occupancy rates crater from the 85 to 95% range that used to be standard down into the 60s in some overbuilt suburban markets. Design and retention in this business isn't about aesthetics because nobody's admiring the view from inside a storage box. It's about friction reduction. The operators winning right now are the ones who've made the entire process app-based. Book online, get a gate code texted to your phone, pay automatically every month, cancel with 2 clicks. The old school model of a guy with a clipboard who's only there Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 5 is dying. Because the entire value proposition of storage is convenience. And convenience means you never have to talk to a human being to access your stuff. Operators using automated gate systems and online booking platforms report renter retention rates 20 to 30% higher than manually operated yards, mainly because the friction of canceling is just slightly higher than the friction of leaving a $30 charge on your card and forgetting about it. And yes, that quiet forgetting is a real and significant chunk of this industry's profit. Self-storage as a category benefits heavily from what operators call tenant stickiness. The average self-storage renter now stays around 18 to 19 months, noticeably longer than a decade ago, largely because auto-pay makes it easier to keep forgetting about a unit than to deal with actually canceling it. Part 3. And this is where we talk about why people still lose money on a business with math this favorable. The first killer is overpaying for land in a market that looked hot but wasn't actually underserved. A lot of new operators see container storage trending on YouTube and business TikTok, assume any land near a growing suburb will work, and skip the step of actually pulling occupancy data from nearby competitors. There are services that track this, and any serious buyer checks them before signing anything. Skipping this step is the single most common reason new yards open at 50% occupancy and stay there. The second killer is underestimating regulatory friction. Zoning boards in a lot of towns have gotten cold on shipping container businesses specifically because, frankly, rows of stacked metal boxes are not what a city council wants greeting people at the edge of town. Permit fights can add 6 months to a year before you rent a single unit, and every month of that delay is a month of carrying costs with zero revenue. Some operators have had entire projects killed after already buying the containers, sitting on tens of thousands of dollars in steel with nowhere legal to put it. The third killer, and the one that quietly destroys the passive income fantasy, is security and liability. An unmanned yard full of boxes containing other people's belongings is unfortunately an attractive target. Break-ins, lock-cutting, and theft claims are common enough that insurance premiums for container storage have climbed noticeably over the past few years, and a single bad incident, say a break-in that hits 15 units in one night, can wipe out an entire year of profit in claims, legal exposure, and reputational damage in a small town where word travels fast. So here's the actual payoff scenario, the realistic one, not the YouTube thumbnail one. A well-located, well-run 50-unit container yard bought for around $250,000 all in, generating $65,000 to $75,000 a year in net income, pays for itself in roughly 3.5 to 4 years. After that, you're looking at a genuinely passive asset throwing off 6 figures annually if you scale to multiple yards which plenty of operators do once they've proven the model in one location. This is why quiet, unglamorous investors, the kind who will never post about it, have been buying up container yards across the Sun Belt for the past several years. It's not sexy. Nobody's filming a container yard for a lifestyle vlog, but if you get the location right, keep your costs disciplined, and actually respect that this is a real estate and demand business wearing a steel disguise, the math genuinely works. Just don't confuse buying containers with buying a business.